Ready to go? Ready? Okay, I am calling to order the regular board meeting or the regular committee meeting of the Engineering Operations Committee and a special meeting of the Board of Directors of the West Basin Municipal Water District. With that, we have a determination of form, Mr. General Manager.
Yes, thank you very much. Director Harold Williams. Here. Chairman Desi Alvarez.
Here.
Director Don Deere. Director Gloria Gray. Director Scott Houston. Mr. Chairman, it's worth noting that though we do not have a quorum, we do have both the chair and the member of this committee. And as such, we may proceed as a committee with recommendations from this committee to the full board. So with that, we're okay.
Full committee meeting,
Yes.
but no special board meeting. So next item up is, do we have any public comment?
Mr. Chairman, we have not received any requests for public comment, though this meeting is being held both in person and virtually. If there's any member of the public that would like to speak, now would be the time to do so. Please indicate that by raising your virtual hand. Mr. Chairman, I do not see a request for public comment.
Okay. And I don't believe we have any presentations,
Staff has no presentations.
so we will move to the action calendar. The first item is the procurement of reverse osmosis membrane. So, Mr. General Manager, would you like to introduce that item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this first item 5A is related to the procurement of reverse osmosis membranes. Unfortunately, at this time, West Basin and Chevron are working to resolve a contractual dispute. For this reason, I would recommend that this item be brought back next month and that I provide a full update to the board at Monday's board meeting.
So if you're asking that we basically hear this next month.
Next month, that's correct.
So why do we need to listen to it?
I will bring you back an update at the board meeting on Monday. We've been discussing this item under closed session.
Okay, close second. Okay, thank you. So then we will move on to our second item on the action calendar, which is the amendment to the agreements for the supply of nitrified and boiler feed recycled water to the Torrance Refining Company. Mr. General Manager.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This item does begin on packet page 7. As you just mentioned, it is related to the nitrified and boiler feed recycled water agreements with the Torrance Refinery Company. And for this presentation, we do have Mark Messerlian, our Executive Manager of Engineering and Operations.
Thank you, EJ. Good afternoon, directors. The development of West Basin's recycled water program required West Basin to enter into agreements with its refinery customers. Such agreements address water quality, capital expenditure, fixed and variable pricing. The agreements associated with our supply of recycled water to the Torrance Refinery are summarized on packet page 7 on the first page of the memo, packet page 7 under the summary. First, we have original agreement of in 1995 for the supply of nitrified recycled water to the Torrance Refinery. That agreement ended in 2020. We entered into a new agreement in March 2021 for the supply of recycled water. And that agreement was extended this time last year for a period of 12 months. Secondly, there's a 1997 agreement for the supply of boiler feed water. That agreement was extended again last year for a period of 12 months. Third, 1995 lease agreement that allowed West Basin to construct water treatment infrastructure on refinery land and allows us to operate that water treatment plant today. That 1995 lease agreement was amended in 98 to account for the boiler feed facilities. And then last year, it was extended for a period of 12 months. So all three agreements were extended for a period of 12 months last year. You may recall last year that the city at that time planned and continues to plan to add pricing provisions in any long-term agreement we might have, but they plan on doing so for any agreement that goes beyond August of next year, August 2025. And therefore, there is this understanding amongst the parties that another one-year extension agreement will be necessary to get us to that point, while it also will give us opportunity to continue good faith negotiations with the parties on a new supply agreement that will allow us basically to full recovery of its supply costs. And you will see all agreements are attached to the memorandum, see forwarded to the report, and the extensions, the proposed one-year extensions are in attachments A, B, and C. The extensions are similar to the ones that we obtained board approval on last year and executed. They include, they allow monthly variable and fixed payments to continue for the next 12 months, with the parties agreeing to perform a reconciliation based on reasonable actual costs incurred by West Basin. With that, I will read the recommendation. Staff recommends that the board authorize the general manager to execute amendments to the 3 current agreements as provided in attachments A, B, and C, extending current lease agreement and continuing the supply of nitrified and boiler feed recycled water to Torrance Refinery through August 31st, 2025. That concludes my reporting. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, well, thank you very much. Director Williams, any questions?
Yeah, I'd like to hear your comments.
Huh?
I'd like to hear your comments.
I've a lot of comments, but I do have, maybe you guys can expand, and maybe the general manager. Focus a little bit more on the revenues and costs that are being incorporated into this new extension.
I didn't know if you had it in front of you,
Um,
the actual payments.
the actual payments are not in front of me right now, but I believe one of the agreements was around $114,000 per month in fixed payments. Those would continue on. That was for the nitrified. And then some similar amount for the boiler feed. Those fixed payments would continue on. And in terms of revenue, the existing agreements have provisions, different type of provisions on how the rates are set. On the boiler feed, it's more based on what we had in 1997. On the nitrified, it's more based on the O&M costs that were established in the agreement in March 2021. I'll be happy to look up and see what the actual
Are we
numbers are.
recovering the full O&M cost?
We planned on doing so through the reconciliation process. In terms of the rates that they pay on a monthly basis and the fixed payments that they pay on a monthly basis, not necessarily, but the fact that the extensions have a reconciliation process that will allow us to reconcile any reasonable actual cost spent for the supply, then yes, we plan on doing so through those provisions.
So the extension will, is basically full cost recovery.
Correct. And it's important to note that Mark Sirlin, our executive manager of engineering operations, along with our legal counsel, has been meeting with Torrance Refinery with regularity. I've had the chance to attend some of those meetings, and I know our assistant general manager, Eric Owens, has attended the last 1 or 2. It's been made very clear to them that that's our expectation, and the language that's in there within the agreement specifically states that. And that's one of the reasons why we continue to work with them as far as the work that's on their site in relation to the facilities there, is to make sure that they have buy-in and full approval of any expenses that are being undertaken there. And ultimately, we felt that the language provided the verbiage and the technical language for us to collect in that. So I don't think that there's any disagreement or any confusion amongst the parties as to what is supposed to happen. What we're trying to do is work our way towards next August of 2025, so that we can actually enter into that new agreement with the city of Torrance. Again, West Basin's been moving forward with our cost of service study, but also the contractual elements of what we would be charging our refineries. And we're using this as a model because it identifies all of those expenses in there. And we feel that our future agreements will be very similar to this, but a little bit more simplistic and streamlined.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have. Do you have any questions now?
No, thank you.
All right, so we'll move this one forward. So next up is the information calendar. We'll start off with the monthly engineering report.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This item does begin on packet page 111. Again, as we do, we have a team of our engineers here for this presentation. This item will be led off by Barkov Masurlian, our Executive Manager of Engineering Operations. But we also have Veronica Govea, our Engineering Supervisor, Kevin Cullen, Engineer 3, John Benner, Engineer 2, here for the presentations.
Thank you, EJ. If we can go to packet page 115 to basically summarize the different presentations that are available today. Also, as a reminder that at the end of the report in the agenda, you can also have project budget information and a list of open contracts for the engineering department as well, in case we ever have questions about those. But for,
But you guys didn't have to speak a little bit louder.
I apologize. I apologize.
I'm in the same boat, man.
All right, so this is just a reminder of an agenda of some of the presentations that we will be providing today, as well as a reminder that there are additional information, project-related information, and contract-related information at the end of the report, so we can always answer any questions you may have on those as well. But we'll start off the presentation on packet page 117. This is just a reminder that, or a heads up on the some of the items that will be coming into committee from the engineering department. We anticipate coming to the committee with a request to pre-procure some key components of the solid handling facility, solid handling improvement project, as well as a request to obtain approval from the board to post the request for bids for the construction part of the project. And John will be talking more about this particular project too. In recent days, after we posted the agenda, we received word that possibly another item could be coming in next month. We received word from the city of Carson that the agreement with the Carson Reclamation Authority for the new development just south of the 405, the boulevards at South Bay, or the district at South Bay, they have different names. A developer project that will install 5,000 feet of new recycled water piping. We've received word that that's moving along, and we could possibly bring it next month. I apologize, it's not on the board, but it's been just recent news that it seems to be moving forward. Any questions about those? Otherwise, we'll move it along. For the first presentation, I'll hand it over to Ms. Veronica Govea for the discussion on the PV lateral project.
Good afternoon, directors. If you can please follow me to page 119. So this is a slide that you have seen in the past. There hasn't been much changes, but one of the things is that of assessing the time impact and submittals in order to give the contractor the corresponding time extension. So again, this is something that we are.
Veronica, excuse me for interrupting you, but.
That was-
Speak up a little bit.
Okay, no, yeah, I can do that for sure. So yes, so we're in the process of completing assessing the submittals that the contractor has sent to us for time extension. So there's a back and forth in regards to responses and modifications. So we are in the process of doing that. hopefully next time we'll have a better, updated spreadsheet on this one. But as you can see on a future slide, you will see that we're almost done with the installation of the pipeline. So if you can please follow me to the next page. So this is just a summary of items that are ongoing on the schedule. Again, we're mindful that the original completion date has already been passed. So as of the date of June 27, 2024, there's already 97 days over. We are assessing, again, time impact analysis. In regards to construction cost, again, the contractor has only submitted for up to February for payment. So essentially, what the contractor is almost done with the construction, they are very late on meeting requests for payment. In regards to RFIs, requests for information, we're pretty much up to date as well as for submittals. Next page. These are just some photos of ongoing construction during the last month. This is a construction on Vista Montana, which is a section that leads to the area where the slope was failed in the city of Torrance, but it was a section that we were able to work on. Into the next page. This is a section that actually was closed by the city. So working with the city, they allowed us to work in the area that their contractor was working on. And essentially we were able to finish that area already. So all this segment has been completed. The next page. This is just a illustration of the pipeline on the intake and the discharge lines that are going into the pump station on 228th Street in the city of Torrance. Next page. So I guess you're more interested maybe on this slide. So this slide represents the work that has been completed. All the line in yellow basically is representing all the pipeline that has been installed. The only segments that are right now in the process of being completed is the tie-in, which is right at the north side by where it says C2 page. That's red, is highlighted in red. So that's where the tie-in is going to take place. So right now we're coordinating with operations department and the contractor to get the tie-in done in the upcoming couple of weeks. And as well as there is another piece, another area on Vista Montana that right now the contractor is in the process of installing. So by the next meeting, that whole pipeline alignment will be completed essentially. And the other component is the master meter that is in the process of being installed. As you might recall, we had a 2-inch gas line that had to be relocated. So we have to work our activities around that particular task. And right now there is also construction activities going into pressure testing, pavement, slurry seal, striping, and completeness punch list items. So this is for the pipeline installation. The next page, please. So this is the representation of the PLA status based on the pipeline. We are basically meeting goals. On the local, it says 18.8%, but that represents for tier 1. Tier 1 is basically everything that is in the service area and 25 radius from headquarters. Tier 2 is also local, but extends 25, beyond the radius of the 25 feet. So we are, it was, it's always known that it's sometimes challenging to meet all those criteria, but I think we are doing our best and we're meeting those criteria. Into the next page. Again, this is just a summary again of the local tier 1 and tier 2 per division summary on participation and all the contractors that are contributing to that. Next page. So pump station. So again, you've seen this particular slide, and we're happy to say that we finally got all the permits released, and they were picked up yesterday. So right now we're in the process of coordinating with the contractor or mobilization. And yeah, again, this slide probably will be modified to represent dates with all the updates that we have. Next page. So again, similar to the pumps, to the pipeline, this is just a summary of the activities that are ongoing. Again, chapter instrumentals for those major long lead items have already been prioritized. So the contractor is already, has submitted those and they are in the process of procuring equipment. So again, because there hasn't been done much construction except like for mobilization activities for bonding, like setting up areas, there hasn't been like many, invoices except for one. To next page. So this is just a summary of the budget of the pipeline and pump station that you see before. So with this concludes the Palos Verdes update. I don't know if you have any questions, otherwise I can pass on to the next person.
Any questions?
Not right now, thank you.
It's worth noting that we will be providing an update to the city of Palos Verdes Estate next week. We will be providing an update to the city of Palos Verdes Estates next week at the council meeting. Next up.
No, I have a question.
Yep.
Going back to the schedule. So on the pipeline, we're 97 days over now.
Mhm.
And when is it your best guesstimate of when it's gonna be done?
Okay, so let me see if I understood your question. You're asking when the pipeline is gonna be finished?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so right now they're basically almost done with the installation of the pipeline, and then the remaining item will be just a master meter.
It seems like.
So, yeah, so what it says in like by August, the end of August, they will be basically done. So there might be some cleanup still, like follow up, like September. The actual pipeline itself.
So the pipeline work will be finished in August,
Yes.
so another 45 days?
So the pipeline right now, if maybe you can go maybe 4 slides before, I think it's page, let's see.
I hit 24.
Yes, 124. Yes,
They already have a
so,
couple of little areas.
yes, so in regards to pipeline installation, the only segment that is, because the road was closed and basically the contractor had to wait for the city to open Montana Avenue. So that way because that was a segment that was being utilized as a rerouted traffic area, I guess, is that little section that says C9 and that is enmarcated with a red circle, like almost in the middle of it. So that particular pipeline is right now being installed. So as we are speaking, there's been progress on that one. So by next meeting, that pipeline should be basically completed. It should be installed. The other segment that is in the process of being installed is just the tie-in. The pipeline is already installed. All they have to do is basically do the connection from the new pipeline to the existing recycled water system, which is at ANSA and Calle Mayor. And for that, the contractor has already pressure tested the segment between Calle Mayor to the pump station. So it's all the way to the intake. So that has been already tested and passed. So the contractor is going to be, is planning on that tie-in on the next couple of weeks. So that's what we are coordinating. So again, that will be completed by next week. And the next item that they're working on right now as we speak is the installation of the master meter, which, I mean, they have all the equipment. So right now it's just basically construction, what they are doing. So again, by August, we should be completing. The other activities, again, is 3.5 miles of pipe. So it's basically the pressure testing, coordinating all that, and then, finishing the paving, the slurry seal, which is a little more like the aesthetics of the finishing work. But essentially, pipeline installation would be, it's almost there. So we're basically saying it's almost 98% complete, except for those pieces. Those are the pieces that are missing from that.
So on the streets, we're just paving, right, a lane width over wherever we open the pipe drain, and then we're slurry sealing the whole street. What are we doing?
Yes, so for pavement is basically the width of the street, and if we cross through two lanes, then it has to be the two lanes. So, sometimes, cities do require from curb to curb, and on these ones, they have been, kind of generous for just allowing us to do the lane width of that we are impacting. Unless we're crossing two lanes, that's when they require us to do basically those two lanes. So once that's done, basically there are notifications that our community outreach sends out to tell residents that there's gonna be some activities and that there's gonna be, some traffic impacts, so that way they do know that maybe they should be looking for a detour for that particular day within specific hours. So that way they don't get caught up on the activities, because yes, those streets at least those road lanes need to be closed.
So on a typical street, all would be required is to repave a lane width or two lane width if we impact two. And then we slowly see like the whole street form and restriping.
No, it's just basically for, it changes from street to street, to be honest, and from city to city. So there are different requirements. So they're basically only asking us for like either those lanes, or like if the street is really small, like really narrow, then they are asking us for the whole thing. Like there's a street that basically is like only capacity for like one car and a half, maybe,
So back to schedule. End of August on this one, and so we had to extend then the CM contract.
Well, no, the CM contract has a longer duration because the CM does not just the pipeline, but also the pump station.
So it's the same.
It's the same CM.
level of effort
yeah.
As far as the CM is concerned.
Yeah.
So as long as we bring the pipeline in on time, we're okay. In terms of extra costs for CM.
Yes, there are two different fee budgets, one for the pipeline and one for the pump station, to make sure that we understand where they're spending the resources. So it's a matter of like, it makes it easier for us to
So you're
control the
spending
cost.
the budget for the pipeline on CM.
Can you repeat the question?
We overspending the budget on the pipeline portion for the CM services.
No, not so far. We haven't seen that. There are on the inspection services, there are DIR requirements that every year they do come out with new wages, essentially for DIR, and those are when sometimes we see those adjustments. But right now, everything is within budget, like the contingency that was basically approved for CM. Right now, everything is within that contingency. For the pipeline itself, same thing. Everything right now, the contractor is kind of late on submitting all the information, but like when doing assessments and calculations, everything is within contingency.
Okay, but within budget, does that mean you're using your 10% overage? Is that on the contract for the CM? That's within budget.
Each of them has a different contingency. So contractor has its 10% contingency, and the CM has its separate 10% contingency. So it's not the borrowing from one to the other one.
So are we using the 10% contingency in the CM contract?
We did use a small portion of it when the project got delayed and it got impacted by DIR, the Department of Industrial Relationship changes on inspection. So there was an adjustment on the wage essentially for the inspector. So that particular increase, which was actually $18,000, approximately some change, was within the contingency. So we still do have contingency left on the CM.
Thank
Sure.
you.
No, thank you.
Next up is Mr. Kevin Cullen on phase 2 expansion project.
Thanks, Marquette. Good afternoon, directors. I'll be starting on packet page 130. Or on 131, actually. Here are just some example photos of the CMF skids. This is skid one, the finished product of hopefully what we'll be turning online and producing new microfiltration effluent through in the coming months. Next slide, please. The contractor lately has been continuing working on their base scope of work to integrate all of the plant improvements as part of the phase 2 expansion into our existing control system. The focus has been their internal loop checks, which have taken a lot longer than expected. The district has had to remain very flexible and working with them to allow to test things within an active treatment plant. So we're continuing to work with them each and every day and trying to do our best to be partners and get to the end as quick as possible. I would say right now they're about 75% done with their internal loop checks. We're hoping that they're going to be done in the next week or two, and we can witness their loop checks before we start the 30-day test. One issue that we are currently working through is what they're calling a latency issue, which is essentially a delay in the communication from the PLC to the DCS, which we do not have on our existing plant infrastructure. So it's an internal problem local to their control system, and it is something we're working through. It's about a 2-minute delay of the communication. So our requirements for the project are real-time control. So that's our expectation, and we're going to work with them over the next week or two to come up with a fix for this. So that's our focus right now. Next slide, please. Here's an overview of the commissioning process that we've been in for quite some time. We're still in phase 4. We've completed the final MF sequence testing and are in the midst of the DCS integration. All of the tags, roughly 2,000 across the entire project, have been brought into the DCS. And as I said, they're in the loop check process and are about 75% done. Following that, like I said, we'll witness their loop checks. That's a 2-week process, and enter the 30-day acceptance test, which will bring us to the completion of the project. Next slide, please. Here's just a remaining activities list, a list what's required for the 30-day acceptance test, which we're hopeful will start in the coming weeks, and then other items that are required for final completion, some of which are just administrative items, but also some functional testing that'll test out the control logic that's currently being installed. That concludes my update, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
No, thank you.
So this is the project that kind of never ends, but is it gonna end in August?
I could say confidently it's not going to end in August.
All right, I'll move on. Thank you. Let's move on.
Next up is John Benner for the Solids Handling Improvement Project, DCS.
Thanks, Barker. Good afternoon, directors. So we'll start the Solids Handling Improvements Project on packet 136. So this just shows the overall schedule of the design phase that we're currently in. The items here in green are ones that are so general coordination project admin has been ongoing throughout the project. The condition assessment, if you remember, we finished it at the end of last year. The preliminary design report was finished at the beginning of this year. And then currently we're working through the pre-procurement list, being to bring back the awards, recommend awards, some pre-procured items next month. And then the design, we have the 90% design submittal. We're currently working through constructability review and reviews of that submittal, and then we'll be moving on to the 100% design. After that, or as part of the design submittal, the Arcadis design consultant are developing project phasing, plan and scheduling. I'm sure you remember this is key to this project, considering the fact that this process needs to be operating 24/7, and so we're bringing in temporary dewatering systems to handle the dewatering while the project is underway, construction. And finally, task 7 there will be the engineering support during construction. So once we get into the construction phase, that will be Arcadis supporting the review of RFIs, submittals, and hopefully not, but potentially change orders and assisting us with that work. The icons on here, the diamonds, you can see condition assessment report was presented back in November to the board. Preliminary design report back in January. We aim to bring, as I mentioned, the pre-procurement awards or some of the pre-procurement awards next month, as well as the approval to post bids for construction. We're hoping for an award for construction in December, and that's at the bottom of that. Next slide, please. So these are the next steps on this project. We aim to, as I mentioned, undertake the constructability reviews with the construction manager. The initial 90% review was held on July 12th. That was with the construction manager, West Basin staff, and Veolia. We are currently in the process of compiling comments from that. We'll submit those to a design consultant, and then we're intending to hold a second constructability review with the construction manager, West Basin staff, and the design consultant in the next couple of weeks. Once we have submitted our comments back to the design consultant and they continue working on the 100% design, we'll then conduct the 100% design constructability review once we receive that 100% design submitted. So we're expecting that sometime in September. We currently have some IFQs, or one IFQ currently, but another one will probably go out next week for pre-procurement. If you remember, I brought those before the board for approval to post back in May. So we currently have the sludge conditioning posted, and the temporary dewatering system rental will be posted next week, or possibly the week after the approvals. We'll review the quotes from those over the next couple of months, and we'll bring those quotes and recommended awards back in either August or September, depending on how long the procurement process takes. For that temporary dewatering system pre-rental agreement, the sludge conditioning tanks pre-procurement award, pre-procurement of some electrical breakers for the temporary system, and then, as I mentioned, approval to post that present bids for construction to be next month. That ends the solids handling update. Are there any questions before I move on to DCS?
No, thank you.
I'll skip on the questions on this one, so let's move on.
Skip. That concludes the project presentation. You may notice, oh, sorry, we skipping DCS. Are we skipping?
I'm sorry?
Move on to DCS project.
So for the DCS update, if you look on the packet page 139. As you will remember, we have in the last few months gone through the process of going through the RFP process for an owner's advisor. We've presented that recommendation of Arcadis to the June Engineering Operations Committee, and we will be returning with that recommendation with some edits to the agreement in the E&O committee on Monday of the July board meeting. Regarding the design builder procurement, we're currently going outreach still. We've been doing that for many months now, meeting consultants regularly and walking them through the site so they're ready for when the RFP comes out. The RFP template is completed and ready for the owner's advisor to come on board and finish it. The contract is about 90% completed, is currently going through a review with our district council, and then the owner's advisor will come on board and complete that. And the scope of work development is currently in at about 30% stage, and we're leaving that for the owner's advisor to take through due to their technical knowledge. The owner's advisor, the aim is to present, once the owner advisor comes on board, present them with a 75% done document package for the procurement. As I said, we'll have the RFP 95% done, contract 90% done, and the scope of work 30% done. So they won't have too much work to do on the RFP or contract. It will mainly be focused on that scope of work and developing those performance requirements. Once we bring the owner's advisor on board, assuming they're approved on Monday, we'll have them start reviewing the package as soon as they're onboarded next month. And our aim is to post that RFP in October, pending obviously us coming back before this committee with the full RFP and seeking approval to post it. The aim is to post that hopefully in October, so we'll probably be bringing that before this committee in September. And next slide, please. This is just an overview of schedule of the entire project. So as I mentioned, we're aiming to onboard the owner's advisor in August. It's likely will come before this committee and the board in January next year to approve the award for the design build team. If we post in October, it'll be a couple of months of procurement for that project. It's quite a large contract, and then we're going to bring it back before the board, this committee and the board in January. Fall of next year, the aim is to complete the first phase of this project, the pre-construction phase of this project. That's when we'll get the guaranteed maximum price proposal and we'll review it, and have negotiations with the design build team and look to move into the construction phase. If all goes well there, we hope to complete construction around summer 2026. That concludes the DCS update. Questions?
Any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on. Next item up is operations.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is the next item. Before we move on, I did want to just point out one thing. You did ask about the JMM expansion too. And while I do completely agree with Kevin's viewpoint that it will not be completed by the end of August, I did want to note that is not in part or all involved with Kevin's performance, because we would not be where we are without that effort to get us across the finish line. So I wanted to note that it will not be completed by the end of August, but we're doing everything that we can to get it done as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item that we have, as you mentioned, is item 6B. It's a monthly operations report. This does begin on packet page 148. And similarly, we have an excellent team here to present to you. This will be led off by Uzi Daniel, Manager of Operations, Susanna Lee, Operations Supervisor, Jamie Malpe, Water Quality and Environmental Compliance Supervisor, and Frank Dukes, our Operations Supervisor.
Thank you, EJ. Good afternoon, directors. Hopefully you can hear me. Voice has never been a loudness, an issue for me. I wanted to highlight a few things before we get into really what is the new format, a slightly new format for our operations presentation, if you have time and would like to see that. Some of the things that operations staff this past month has been dealing with is a lot of just small but good customer service, recycle water customer service oriented things, from pressure concerns to connections. The Into a Dome thing, again, a really great success, but we're still working with that, getting it across the finish line. They had their first soft event and their next one is coming. I think Frank will highlight this at the end of the month. In addition, we've had a few folks asking water quality and a number of actually general public just inquiring, I think, as a result of some of our really great classes that we've held. We're also dealing this last month. We've been dealing, operations has worked, the board knows we worked very hard to sometimes secure 2 vendor suppliers for things that were very critical. So we wouldn't get in a situation where where one had an issue. There are some consolidations occurring. Our solids hauling, one team bought the other team. So we're currently, staff will update, working on that. In addition, with chemical, we're finding that a lot of folks no longer want to sign our terms and conditions. Asking around, it seems to be a little bit of an issue with other agencies as well. So again, we're working hard to manage that and make sure the chemicals we need do arrive to the facility. So thank you to staff for that. On some nice positive high sort of nice notes, actually upcoming, AWWA, CWEA have gotten together. The Advanced Water Treatment course will be hosted next week or the week after at ECL. You're welcome to stop by with some instructors. People from all different agencies and groups will be coming down to attend that 4-day class. Take advantage. They really seek out our site because it is sort of a pioneering site. In addition, the water, get to know your H2O. Have to give a kudos to staff. The water quality compliance team went there. It was a sold out house. I want to believe it was us, not the free meal, but it was great. And so the directors are aware. It often results in people asking for our cards, follow-up questions from, can you send me water quality reports, to, can you give me a job? And I really appreciate how staff in West Basin is great at always just taking those on. That's our community. We appreciate all those. So that's a really great highlight, and thank you to everyone. And finally, just for the all of West Basin, but we got our new interns in place. I'm sorry he couldn't be here. We'd like to introduce him. His school schedule and other job schedule is a morning schedule, but we'll make sure to get him to one of these board meetings soon. And with that, we'll go to page, if you'd like to see, would you like to see the presentation then? If time permits, we'll go to packet page 1. So there we go. So this is a little bit of the new format, as you'll see. So you might see a few speakers who have alternated a bit. but we'll proceed in that order and update you with the slides and any questions you might have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Director. So we'll begin with the production section. So we'll be focusing on the production and demands. And for the month of June, we ended a little bit below last fiscal year. For the year, we ended at 27,000 acre foot versus our budget 33,000. We can scroll to the next page. We can see the contributors. Mainly is that barrier we are still severely different from our budget, and that's mainly because of the MF membranes, and we still working through a lot of the valve issues and compressors and whatnot. So we're anticipating this fiscal year that we will be meeting the target or the budget amount. And so overall for the year, we're down 17% compared to the budget. And the other significant variance is JMM Nitrify, where I mentioned numerous times that they rebalance the flow and they want to take more boiler feed versus the Nitrify. Moving on to the next page. Again, this is really to highlight what the difference is compared to last year, and it's mainly barrier production that contributes to budget and actual. Next page, please. There are some highlights on maintenance activities at the plant. As the photo shows you, there's a lot of pump repairs that are going on at the plant, and we're finding this could still be contributed to the 2021 event, and we're still finding now a lot of valves and pumps are having issues. So we're the team at Veolia is busy repairing motors and pump, as well as we're trying to get the ozone back in operations as well. We have pump, Title 22 product pump that we got pulled. That one took a lot of coordination with the production team and the pump contractor, because that is a very deep and long pump. So I don't think we have done that in a while. So this is to couple with the recent VFD project that Kevin finished. So we're looking forward to utilizing some of those VFDs pump back in service. With that, I think that's the last part for production. You have any questions? Move on to water quality compliance.
Good afternoon, directors. Talking about water quality and compliance. This slide shows the ECL influence humidity average being 15.1 NTU, and the Title 22 production being in compliance. Next slide, please. It shows the influent total suspended solids, which averages about 27 milligrams per liter. Month of June. Next slide, please. This table shows the difference between Hyperion effluent versus ECL influent on the monthly average of TSS. We are below the monthly average limit. Looks like Hyperion is a little higher than ours. Next slide, please. This one shows the Hyperion effluent versus ECL influent, the average weekly turbidity. And once again, they look like their turbidity is a little bit higher than ours. Next slide, please. This shows the Hyperion effluent versus the ECL influent quarterly ammonia, and it seems to be reversed. We're a little bit better than that. Or, excuse me, worse. Next slide, please. Environmental compliance activities for June. We have our routine monthly log reduction value report. We also completed some of the requirements for the renewal of the person brine permit, which included a spill cleanup contingency plan, a technical report on preventative and contingency plans, and initial investigative toxicity reduction evaluation. We collected 653 compliance samples for the month of June. And coming up, our RFPs in the near future will be for the chemistry lab and toxicity laboratory, which contracts will be expiring at the end of the year. With that, I'll pass that over to Frank.
Thank you, Jamie. Good afternoon, directors. So this is our monthly distribution system update, starting with the distribution system activities. This is the work that's implemented by our operator Inframark. So here you can see the table of all the monthly activities. I wanted to highlight that in June, we did have one leak in our distribution system from a service line in Gardena in front of Arthur Lee Johnson Memorial Park, and that was repaired with no issues. Currently in this month, we've had a total of 3 leaks so far, 2 in El Segundo and 1 in Hermosa Beach, also from service lines. Those have been repaired also with no issues. Next slide, please. And I'm happy to report that we have another new recycled water site connected. This is a housing facility within the SoFi development. They're going to be using recycled water. They're already using recycled water for irrigation of landscaping between 1 to 2 acre feet per year. The cross connection test was completed the end of June, and they were able to connect to recycled water soon after. Next slide. And then talking about cross connection tests, I want to provide just a brief overview of a cross connection test, just to provide a refresher of the work that's implemented as part of this test. Whenever I provide updates for every recycled water site before they're connected, cross connection test is required. It's also required for sites that modify their existing recycled water system. And so a cross connection is basically an interconnection between the potable water system and the recycled water system. And even if there's a valve that separates the two systems, that's also considered a cross connection. So whenever we implement these tests, it's from the water that's applied to the proposed recycled water system is from a temporary potable water source from a fire hydrant. And then there's a backflow protection device installed, and then a hose run to the proposed recycled water system. And of course, then we coordinate with the site owner, LA County Department of Public Health, and the purveyor for that area. Next slide. And so I just wanted to kind of briefly go over a basic cross connection test for a site. This is an example of a site that's going to use recycled water for irrigation. We first start off with what we call the baseline test. And so we would pressurize both systems, both the proposed recycled water system as well as the potable water system. So in this example, the proposed recycled water system is irrigation. And so all of the irrigation system will be tested to ensure that all the devices, all the sprinkler heads are working, all quick couplers are working. And for the building, the potable water, all the bathrooms, all the sinks, all the water using devices are tested as well. And then we go to the next phase. The next slide, please. And so we would turn off one of the systems. And so in this example, we're turning off the proposed recycled water. And so the entire test of all the fixtures is implemented again. The same inspectors that went through the irrigation system would go through it again, and they would want to make sure that nothing is working. If something did turn on, then that would be an indication of a cross connection. Similarly, for the building, all the devices should be working, and if one is not, again, that would be an indication of potential cross connection. Then the final phase is the same test, but in this phase, the proposed recycled water system is pressurized, and then the potable water is turned off, and then all the devices are tested again, and to ensure that the system is pressurized, all those devices are working, and similar to the building, there shouldn't be any devices that are working, for example, a drinking fountain or something like that. Anyway, that's a summary of a cross connection test. Happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
Typically, how long does a test take?
So the complexity or the duration of the test will depend on the size of the site. So this test that I described is applicable to all the proposed recycled water connections, but the duration of the test or the number of staff that are required to implement the test are going to be determined on the size of the site. So we try to implement this test within a 1-day time frame. And so we would try to estimate the number of staff that would be required to go through the entire irrigation in the building. For the Intuit Dome, for example, that site was so large that we had to split it up over 2 days. And we had a large amount of staff to be able to implement that test.
Where did the staff come from?
We had some West Basin staff. We had volunteers that helped out during that test. We had a large number of staff from the Department of Public Health. I think they had basically their entire office came out to help for that test. And then we had a lot of support from the developer, the contractor as well.
So is this volunteer work or what?
Well, no, generally it would be, staff from West Basin. We generally don't require that many staff. We would just have usually maybe 2 or 3 people from the district participate in a test. And from the Department of Public Health, they may have 2 or 3 or maybe more to be able to support. And then the contractor or the developer would provide, usually they have subcontractors, like for example, for the irrigation system, they would have that subcontractor have as many staff as needed that would be able to go and pressurize the irrigation system, and then have staff available to go through and open all the bathrooms, for example, or any water using areas for the buildings.
Sounds interesting. Thank you.
It's a straightforward process, but like, as you can see, it can get very tedious and try to coordinate the entire test based on how large the site is.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next slide, please. This is our monthly potable water customer service report. There haven't been too much change from the previous month. For WB 23A, the agreement between West Basin and Golden State is still pending. So the advertising for bids, that schedule is still pending. But once that agreement is signed, then Metropolitan Water District can schedule advertising for that work. For WB8, this is the work that Metropolitan Water District is planning to replace a valve for WB8. This is going to require the city of Lomita to install 600 feet of a pipeline for the emergency connection. And the city is going to be moving forward with that work, but they haven't scheduled it yet. Next slide, please. And this is the potable water sales update for June. The actual sales for June were 7,603 acre feet compared to the budget of 8,128. That's a difference of 7%. For the total year, the overall sales were 83,887 acre feet compared to the budget of 95,000 acre feet. That's a difference in 13%. Happy to answer any additional questions.
Well, thank you.
Very good. I think that brings us to the end of the information calendar.
That is correct.
So we don't have any closed session items.
Correct.
And are there any general comments or future agenda items that you would like to bring forward, Director Williams?
Yeah, I have a question concerning the CIP projects and the CIP number. Is there any significance to the number of the CIP project?
Like that, Director Williams. Yes, there is significance. It helps us track project documents, project costs, and make sure that what we're spending is within the budgets. So tracking wise, monitoring the project wise, contracts wise, having a number for a single project helps us with all that, project management and budgetary issues as well.
Were you asking regarding the specific number?
Yeah. So could you have a CIP project without a number?
No.
So in order to get a CIP project, you have to go through the numbering system?
Correct.
Yeah. So, and who does that?
The engineering department does that. Every year when we go through our budget process, once we see a potential, a request for a project, we validate that request. If we see there's any merit to it, we assign a project number to it. We talk to finance about that so they can assign an activity code for it. And then we bring the project forward for the board's consideration before we proceed with it.
So I'm assuming then that we could look at the number and determine how long the project has been around.
You could say so.
Like
Yeah, it's,
whether or not it was a 2-year project or 10-year project.
generally speaking, yes. The lower the number, the older the project.
Very good. Thank you.
But the projects are just sequential numbers.
It is sequential, correct. And we started this numbering system, I want to say probably 6 or 7 years ago. Is that true?
And we started at 10,000.
It starts at 10,000.
Oh, you guys are pretty sharp. All right, thank you.
Okay, I don't have any other comments, so with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you very much.